Imagine a world where the maps are finally complete, every mountain peak surveyed by satellites and every forest floor scanned by thermal imaging. We live in an era of total visibility, where the dark corners of our planet have been illuminated by the cold glow of technology. Yet, in the deepest shadows of the Himalayas, a whisper persists that defies our modern certainty. The legend of the Yeti, the abominable snowman. Is it possible that a massive, bipedal primate could truly navigate the world's most hostile terrain without ever being officially captured by science? For centuries, the people of Tibet and Nepal have spoken of the Mete, a creature that belongs neither to man nor to beast. To the local communities, the Yeti isn't a monster from a campfire story, but a physical reality of the high-altitude wilderness they inhabit. This mystery isn't just about a hidden animal. It is a reflection of our deep-seated need to believe that the world is still wild. We are drawn to the idea of the wild man, a mirror image of ourselves that chose a different evolutionary path in the frozen wastes. The modern obsession began in 1921, when British explorer Charles Howard Berry discovered massive, human-like footprints at 20,000 feet on Mount Everest. His Sherpa guides called them Metokangmi, a term mistranslated by a breathless Western press as the abominable snowman, sparking a global sensation. Suddenly, the roof of the world became a stage for a grand scientific detective story that would span over 100 years of exploration. During the 1950s, expeditions funded by wealthy adventurers and even the Daily Mail trekked into the clouds, searching for hair, bone, and skin. They found scalps in ancient monasteries and skeletal hands tucked away in sacred boxes, relics that seemed to bridge the gap between myth and biology. Even the legendary mountaineer Reinhold Messner, the first to climb Everest without supplemental oxygen, claimed a terrifying encounter with a golden brown creature. These accounts aren't just anecdotes. They are the data points that modern primatologists and geneticists must now weigh against the laws of ecology. To understand the Yeti, we must first understand the environment it supposedly calls home, the brutal, oxygen-thin alpine zones of the high Himalayas. This is a place where every calorie is precious, and the line between survival and extinction is as thin as the mountain air itself. If a large primate exists here, it would have to be a masterpiece of evolution, adapted to temperatures that can shatter steel. But as we look closer with the tools of the 21st century, the romantic mystery begins to collide with the cold, hard facts of DNA. Let's dive into the evidence, from the early footprints to the latest genomic sequencing, to see what is actually hiding in the snow. To solve the riddle of the Yeti, scientists don't look for monsters. They look for biological reality and ecological footprints. In 2014, a team led by Professor Brian Sykes from Oxford University conducted the first comprehensive DNA survey of Yeti samples. They collected hair, teeth, and skin fragments from museums and private collections, subjecting them to the rigors of mitochondrial DNA testing. The results were startling. 2 samples from Bhutan and Ladakh matched the genetic signature of an ancient, extinct polar bear. This suggested that a previously unknown hybrid species of bear might be roaming the Himalayas, mistaken by locals for a hominid. However, science is a self-correcting process, and other researchers quickly challenged the ancient bear theory with further genomic data. A follow-up study in 2017 by Dr. Charlotte Linkvist analyzed 9 Yeti samples and found they belonged to local brown and black bears. It turns out that the vast majority of physical evidence points not to a primate, but to the majestic Ursus arctos pruinosus. Yet, identifying the animal doesn't fully explain the cultural phenomenon. Why do we see a man where there is only a bear? This is where pareidolia comes in, the human brain's hardwired tendency to find familiar patterns, especially faces, in random or ambiguous stimuli. In the thin, freezing air of a mountain peak, exhaustion and hypoxia can turn a distant bear standing on its hind legs into a giant. We must also consider the footprints, which often look human-like because of how snow melts and distorts the original animal track. A small fox or leopard print can expand in the sun, merging several toes into a single, massive, abominable footprint over several hours. But if the Yeti is just a bear, why does the myth persist so strongly across so many different cultures and centuries? Anthropologists suggest that the Yeti serves as a boundary creature, marking the limit between the domestic world and the untamable wilderness. It is a psychological projection of our fears of the unknown personified into a creature that can survive where we cannot. Even without a body, the Yeti performs a vital function. It keeps the mountains enchanted in an age of total mapping. If we prove the Yeti doesn't exist, we lose a piece of the world's mystery and perhaps a piece of our own curiosity. So we continue to look, not just for a hidden ape, but for the biological anomalies that still hide in the cracks. Let's look at the relict hominoid theory, the idea that the Yeti might be a surviving relative from our own evolutionary past. Some theorists propose that the Yeti isn't a myth at all, but a relict hominoid, a species that survived the end of the last ice age. The prime candidate for this theory is Gigantopithecus blacki, a massive ape that lived in Southeast Asia until about 300,000 years ago. Standing nearly 10 feet tall, Gigantopithecus was the largest primate to ever walk the Earth, a true titan of the prehistoric forests. While fossil evidence suggests they went extinct due to climate change, some wonder if a small population migrated to the safety of the mountains. It is a tempting narrative, a forgotten branch of our own family tree, living in secret while we built cities and launched rockets. But biology imposes strict limits on such dreams, starting with the fundamental problem of population density and genetic diversity. For a species to survive for hundreds of thousands of years, it needs a minimum viable population, usually hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals. A group that large would leave behind more than just a few ambiguous hairs. They would leave a massive ecological footprint in the landscape. They would need to find vast amounts of food in a region where vegetation is sparse and the growing season is incredibly short. They would die, leaving behind skeletons, teeth, and waste that modern field researchers and hikers would eventually stumble upon. In the history of zoology, no large mammal has ever managed to remain completely hidden in a region as heavily explored as the Himalayas. Even the elusive snow leopard, the ghost of the mountains, is regularly tracked and photographed by conservationists using remote camera traps. So if the Yeti isn't a giant ape or an ancient bear, we have to look at the most powerful force in the universe: human storytelling. In many Himalayan cultures, the Yeti is a spiritual entity, a guardian of the high places that punishes those who disrespect nature. To the West, we stripped away the spiritual meaning and replaced it with a biological mystery to fit our own scientific worldview. We turned a complex cultural symbol into a missing link because we are obsessed with categorizing every mystery into a box. This clash between traditional belief and modern science creates a strange middle ground where neither side is fully satisfied with the answer. When we analyze a Yeti scalp in a lab, we are essentially performing an autopsy on a legend, trying to find marrow in a metaphor. Perhaps the true value of the Yeti isn't in its existence, but in what the search reveals about our own limitations as observers. Every time we fail to find the creature, we are reminded that there are still parts of the world and ourselves that we don't fully control. If the Yeti is not a flesh and blood primate, we must ask why the human mind is so fertile at creating them in every corner of the globe. From the Sasquatch of North America to the Yowie of Australia, the wild man is a universal archetype that haunts our collective subconscious. Evolutionary psychologists suggest these legends are relics of a time when humans actually shared the landscape with other hominid species. For most of our history, we weren't alone. We lived alongside Neanderthals, Denisovans, and the tiny Homo floresiensis, the hobbits of Indonesia. Perhaps the Yeti is a genetic memory, a ghostly echo of a time when a large, hairy other truly was watching us from the tree line. This deep-seated instinct to scan the horizon for a rival species might explain why a simple brown bear triggers such a visceral reaction. We are also living in a period of high strangeness, where digital hoaxes and AI-generated images can breathe new life into dying myths. In the age of the internet, a blurry video from a remote trail camera can go viral instantly, bypassing scientific peer review for emotional impact. This creates a feedback loop, where the more we want to find the creature, the more likely we are to misinterpret the data we find. Despite the lack of a body, the search for the Yeti has actually yielded significant, real-world scientific discoveries for the Himalayan region. By studying these mysterious hair samples, geneticists have mapped the migration patterns of rare bears and discovered unique subspecies of wolves. The quest for a myth has accidentally funded the conservation of some of the most endangered and very real animals on our planet. It turns out that searching for what isn't there is one of the best ways to find out exactly what times is times there. This brings us to a philosophical crossroads. Do we want to live in a world where every mystery has been solved and labeled? Science is often seen as a tool for disenchantment, stripping the magic away from the world until only cold equations remain. But the true spirit of science is not to destroy wonder, but to replace shallow mystery with a much deeper, more complex beauty. Knowing that a yeti is actually a rare Tibetan brown bear doesn't make the animal any less magnificent or the mountains less dangerous. The bear is a master of survival, a sovereign of the high peaks that deserves our respect and protection just as much as any monster. As we move further into the 21st century, the wild man is increasingly being pushed out by habitat loss and climate change. If the yeti dies, it won't be because we found him, it will be because we destroyed the wilderness he was supposed to inhabit. We are the only species that tells stories to make sense of the dark, and the yeti is one of our oldest and most enduring chapters. Whether it is a misidentified bear, a psychological projection, or a lingering memory of our extinct cousins, the yeti remains real in our minds. It represents the part of the world that refuses to be tamed, measured, or fully understood by the satellites overhead. In our drive to illuminate every corner of the Earth, we must be careful not to extinguish the very wonder that fuels our exploration. If we ever do find a massive, unknown primate in the mountains, it will be a triumph for biology, but a quiet funeral for a legend. Until then, the high Himalayas will remain a place where the wind howls like a voice and footprints lead into the impossible. Modern science doesn't ask us to stop believing in the mystery. It asks us to look closer at the incredible reality that is already there. The Tibetan Plateau is home to unique ecosystems where life thrives against all odds, a testament to the resilience of our planet. Protecting these habitats ensures that the wild man always has a place to hide, even if that place is only in our imagination. We share this Earth with billions of creatures, many of which are just as strange and fascinating as any creature from a myth. From the deep oceans to the high peaks, the universe is far more complex and beautiful than our simple stories can ever capture. Perhaps the yeti is not out there waiting to be found, but inside us, reminding us that we are still a part of the wild. So, the next time you look at a map and see a blank space, don't feel the need to fill it with a name. Instead, appreciate the silence, the cold, and the possibility that something we don't understand is looking back at us. Curiosity is the fire that keeps the darkness at bay, but wonder is what makes the darkness worth exploring in the first place. As we continue our journey into the unknown, we should carry our skepticism in one hand and our awe in the other. Because in a world where everything is known, there is no room left for us to grow, to dream, or to be surprised. The legend of the Yeti is a gift, a reminder that the Earth is still vast and we are still very, very small. So, what else is hiding in the shadows of our world, waiting for us to ask the right questions? Keep looking, keep questioning, and above all, keep wondering.